They had just used our dorms as their dorms. You could tell where they slept because our beds were caved in. As if elephants had decided to come and take naps in Tower E. I had a lot of fun here. I ate terrible food on the meal plan here. I made friends for life here. I got to be in a lot of plays and struck out with a lot of girls. But graduating in 1981 with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in theater, I was ready for life. Real life. A life where just showing that degree and saying I'm an actor opened every door in New York City. Now I know a lot of you have carefully planned for the future and your proud parents are here today. Look at them. Ready to help you and sacrifice even further for you. Some of them, because they love you so much, have asked me to pass on a message to you. Please don't move back in with us. You're welcome, parents. I say this to my kids as well. I mean, listen. Us parents, we used to be kids. We went to school, we graduated, we struggled. But when we could finally support ourselves, we used to do whatever we wanted. We'd go out, party, take trips whenever we wanted, buy a house, do whatever we wanted with the rooms in that house. And then you came along. Now, this doesn't mean we don't love you. It doesn't mean we've stopped deeply caring. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't call or visit often. It's just, we want to put a hot tub in that room. And besides, how will you ever have any self-esteem if you don't do things for yourself? That's what my parents said to me. My terrific parents are here today. Max and Helen Rosenthal. They're in the glass, behind the glass there. That's where we keep them. What if it rains? You think it's going to rain? I don't know. Maybe we should go inside. Do you have it inside? Can we sit inside? Okay, we'll sit inside. They didn't want me back either. And they told me so. And I was going to show them I had enough self-esteem not to move back in with my father and mother. I moved in with my grandmother. That's true, right after graduation. The German word for grandmother is Oma. And my Oma, or as we called her, Crazy Oma, lived in a not-so-good neighborhood in Washington Heights, Manhattan. Yeah, but it was a huge two-bedroom place. She was a tough and, yes, crazy old German lady who greeted me in a green bathrobe. A little like this, actually. With curlers in her hair and a big soup ladle in her hand. This was my roommate. I thought that since the old apartment was so big, we could go weeks without seeing each other. I thought that I could come and go as I pleased and still not have to pay rent. I thought this was a good idea. I didn't know that I actually would have to pay with my soul. Crazy Uma had rules in her house. She did not enjoy visitors or people of any kind, really. I was not allowed to leave the apartment without my clothing passing inspection, and my hair was brushed, often against my will. Every meal was to be eaten at home, cooked by Crazy Uma. Every meal involved some kind of cold cuts from the neighborhood butcher. I remember the name of the butcher was Bluch and Falk. Sounds appetizing, yes? I remember bologna-looking mystery meats with the big white splotches of fat in it. And then the murky, salty German soups that tasted like the ocean. One night I took a sip of that soup and stared at my spoon. There was a hair curler in it. I even started to miss the student center. I lasted 2 weeks at Crazy Uma's. I knew I had to move out on my own or I was going to kill Crazy Uma and sell her body to Bloch and Falk. And so I did move out to another Washington Heights apartment with another Hofstra graduate, or 2, or 3, or 4. And we made our way. First job I got with my new degree in theater. Telephone sales. Cold calling. I sold farm and implement cleaner in a boiler room setup on Park Avenue South. My script began, "Congratulations, you've won a television." This was usually followed by someone suggesting that I please enjoy myself, though not in those exact words. I tried to get auditions, and I ate tuna fish for dinner almost every night. The next job I got was as a security guard at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I worked the graveyard shift. That's midnight to 8 in the morning. I thought I could do this. I was fired from the Metropolitan Museum of Art for falling asleep on a 300-year-old bed.
Couldn't hack it.
It's all true. My next job, I managed a deli at 70th and 3rd on the Upper East Side called P.J. Bernstein's for a nice man named Lou. I enjoyed the deli. I gained 15 pounds. But I came to work one day and work was closed. The lights were off, the chairs were up, the door was locked. I'm standing outside. And the sweet guy from next door comes outside from the store next door. He says, "Oh, you're looking for Lou? Hey, run away." He owe everybody money. The milkman, the meat man, the fish man. You don't see him again. "Hey, aren't you the famous stupid boy who fall asleep at the museum?" Ha ha, stupid. I went home hungry that night, but at least I had tuna fish. When I got home, I discovered that one of my roommates had given my last can of tuna to his cat. So I got into my little bed with that day's newspaper, and I opened it to see a big full-page ad for a big Long Island college. "Hofstra University, we teach success." I said to myself. I must have been out that day. But even though I was pretty hungry, a little lonely, a lot frustrated, I was young, and I actually remember thinking to myself, I have a place to live, I have a little television, and at least I get to pursue what I want. And that's something not to take for granted, the actual pursuit of happiness. Then my apartment was robbed and they got my television. I bet you graduates are now wondering, why the hell is this guy telling me all this? And the parents are saying, not exactly an ad for living out on your own. Thank you, doctor. But wait, it gets worse. Right around this time, some other actor friends of mine who were in the same leaky boat asked me to help write a show for all of us to be in. And we did, and that show became very successful. We had literally written our own ticket. A great lesson. But then egos got involved, and backstage backbiting, and greed and jealousy, and I was fired from the very hit show I had helped create by people I thought were my friends. This was a real welcome to the real world. And it was the absolute lowest point in my life. Lower even than being on the meal plan here at Hofstra. I could have sued these people. I had grounds to sue them. But I had no money. So I did the poor man's version of suing. I got incredibly depressed. A talent agent had seen me in the show and said, if you come to Hollywood, you will never stop working as an actor. So I packed a bag and I moved to Hollywood, and I never started working as an actor. But I did start writing with another friend of mine who was also trying to break into sitcoms. We had to write one of those sample scripts called a spec script, but we didn't know what we were going to write about. At the time, there was a popular TV show called Roseanne, and I thought, what if her husband had to take a job at night as a security guard in a museum, and he gets fired for falling asleep on a 300-year-old bed? And that's what we wrote. And agents and studio people started reading this and saying, what an imagination. And I went from being an actor who ate tuna fish for dinner to eating whatever I wanted. And then I got jobs on terrible shows, like a sitcom for Robert Mitchum. You can ask your parents who's Robert Mitchum. They'll say, nobody who should ever be in a sitcom. Then some more terrible shows, and then not so terrible shows. And then I met a guy named Raymond. And I wrote a show for him. And I put a lot of my family stuff and my stories into that show. And at first I got a lot of notes from a lot of executives. And I would listen to these notes. And I would consider them carefully. And then I did the show I wanted to do. And I got to run that show for 9 years. And now I'm a doctor.